The Data Act not only grants new access rights to data generated by connected devices, but also poses numerous restrictions and obligations on the use and access of that data. For example, the DA includes a prohibition to use the data for developing a competing product, a prohibition to pass the data on to firms that are designated as gatekeepers under the Digital Markets Act, and an obligation for third parties who access data on behalf of users to contract with the data holder and to negotiate a price for the data. The proposed Data Act is therefore not just an enhanced data portability regulation 2.0, but contains numerous restrictions not found in the right for data portability under the GDPR. In particular, under GDPR, users can authorize a third party to access their data free of charge, while that is not possible under the DA. Economically speaking, these restrictions create economic friction, a transaction cost, for the free flow of data and make the emergence of data markets not very likely. The Data Act may even deprive the emergence of data markets due to the new obligations and restrictions imposed on the free flow of data. A more effective Data Act would therefore reduce the number of restrictions on the use of data and allow third parties to access the data free of charge. The no competition clause in the proposed Data Act is highly problematic for a number of reasons. First, it creates economic and legal uncertainty. When is a product a competing product? What if a firm has already begun to develop a competing product before it received ported data? One would have to define product markets, and this possibly for hundreds of thousands of connected devices to which the Data Act applies. Second, the no competition clause in fact undermines incentives for innovation and competition in secondary markets. Often firms may enter the secondary market with the prospect to enter the primary market later, for example through vertical integration. The no competition clause prevents such a niche entry and growth strategy, which is typical for digital firms and therefore undermines incentives to enter into and innovate in the secondary markets in the first place. Third, the no competition clause is also a hindrance for the emergence of data markets and the free flow of data. If getting access to data means that firms are then limited in their possibilities to expand business later, they will be reluctant to acquire data. Overall, I therefore strongly believe that the Data Act should not include a no competition clause. Of course, it is important to protect innovation rents for those firms that have developed successful connected products and are now obliged to share data under the Data Act. However, that does not mean a positive price for data needs to be charged. Innovation incentives can also be preserved by limiting the scope of possible data access in the first place. The Data Act already limits the scope of data access to raw data that is already being sent to some remote server of the data holder. Thus, data can be made readily available in the format and in the place where it's already available to the data holder today. And this can be done at near zero marginal cost. In reverse, recipients of the data must invest and innovate to make use of such data. They must convince each individual user to port the data to them, and this will already and likely involve payments to be made. Additional payments to the data holder for raw data that was co-created by the users as a byproduct of usage does not seem reasonable. Most importantly, however, the need to negotiate a price creates high economic transaction costs, and the negotiations are likely to fail in practice. Presuming the access price is zero is reasonable, as the expected marginal costs are near zero. Only in this way we can lower the transaction cost of data access and use to the extent that we can really free data from its silos and reap the expected benefits from the Data Act.